Tonight's story is called The Libertyland Massacre, written by Dead Air. Turn the lights off, get comfortable, and enjoy the tape. Libertyland officially closed on October 29th, 2005. That's the date the city put on paperwork. That's the date they tell people. The final operating day. The end of Libertyland. But people in Memphis who worked there know better, because by October, the park had already changed. The massacre happened months earlier, and after that day, nobody working there believed Libertyland was just an amusement park anymore. There's a smell old amusement parks carry after rain: wet wood, burnt wiring, grease soaked into ancient machinery, sugar melting into hot concrete, standing water beneath rides. People think memories stay in your head. They don't. Sometimes they stay in places. And if you grew up around Libertyland, then part of you still remembers that park whether you want to or not. I know I do. God help me, I still do. Sometimes after storms, I still wake up hearing coaster chains outside my window. Click, click, click. Like something enormous climbing in the dark. I worked overnight maintenance at Libertyland from 1994 until the park officially closed in 2005. At least, that's what city records say happened. Most people remember Libertyland as some rundown Memphis amusement park that simply ran out of money. That's the official story. Financial problems, declining attendance, unsafe rides. But official stories exist to make impossible things sound manageable. The truth is, Libertyland didn't close because it was failing. Libertyland closed because something underneath the park woke up. And by the time people realized the rides were alive, the park had already grown hungry. The first time I met the operator, I thought he was just another strange old maintenance worker. Everybody at Libertyland knew him. Nobody knew his real name, no paperwork, no office, no employee file. But somehow, everybody answered to him. Tall, thin, older than anybody there, but somehow never aging. Blue maintenance uniform faded almost grey with time. Hands permanently stained black with grease like the oil had soaked into his skin years ago. He moved slowly, spoke softly, and treated every ride in the park like it was breathing, not metaphorically, literally. He touched ride supports affectionately while walking, whispered apologies to broken machinery, rested his hand against wooden beams like he was checking a pulse. She's tired tonight. He don't like storms. Easy now. At first, employees laughed about him. Then they worked there long enough and stopped laughing. There was another thing employees stopped laughing about too. The mascot, hound dog. Kids loved him. Employees hated him. Not because he hurt anybody, because he stared. Sometimes you'd look across the midway at 2 a.m. and see him standing completely motionless beside closed rides. Not waving, not dancing, just watching. One night I found him standing beside the wacky worm, staring directly into the tracks, while the ride clicked softly by itself in the dark. Another employee swore he saw the mascot standing beneath the Zippin' Pippin during a thunderstorm with both hands pressed against the wooden supports, like he was listening to something underneath the ride. Nobody ever saw him enter the costume. Nobody ever saw him remove the head. And somehow, he was always there. The first thing that truly changed me happened beneath the Zippin' Pippin during the summer of 1996. It was almost 2 a.m. Rain hammered the midway roofs while thunder rolled over Memphis hard enough to shake the lights above the park. I was underneath the coaster replacing damaged support hardware when I heard breathing below the tracks. Not air pressure, not settling wood. Breathing, slow, heavy, wet. Like lungs the size of buildings inhaling underneath the earth. I froze with my flashlight aimed between the support beams while the sound echoed through the wood around me. Then something moved underneath the tracks. Not fully, just enough. The wooden supports shifted outward slightly, like ribs expanding. I stumbled backwards so hard I cracked my head against one of the beams trying to crawl out from under there. The next morning, I told the operator what happened. He didn't even look surprised. Didn't stop tightening bolts. He just smiled faintly and said, "She trusts you." That sentence followed me for 11 years. Libertyland had rules employees weren't supposed to question. Don't whistle inside maintenance tunnels. Never shut the midway lights off all at once. Never stay inside the park after the final announcement. And before midnight, feed the rides. Every attraction got different meat. Raw chicken beneath the carousel. Beef beneath the Zippin' Pippin. Fresh cuts hung near Revolution. The operator claimed each ride liked different things. New employees thought it was some weird old Southern maintenance superstition, until they forgot. When rides weren't fed, incidents happened. Restraints malfunctioned. Tracks overheated. Children wandered away from parents. Guests disappeared briefly inside attractions too small to hide anybody. The worst part, the rides always seemed calmer afterward, like feeding them worked. The operator loved the rides, but he hated the mascot. I heard yelling from the mascot room more than once late at night. Heavy impacts, furniture overturning, something crying softly through fabric. Then silence. Sometimes Hound Dog appeared the next morning with torn fur or one of the costume eyes hanging crooked. Kids never noticed. They still hugged him, still held his hand, still followed him around the park smiling. But employees avoided him because no matter how damaged the mascot looked, he always stared at people like he was trying to warn them about something. The rides hated being cleaned too thoroughly. One summer, a teenage employee named Micah pressure washed the underside of the carousel because management wanted the park looking newer before tourist season. The operator found him scrubbing old stains from the support poles beneath the horses. I have never seen fear on somebody's face like that before. Not anger, fear. "You removed her markings," he kept whispering. Micah laughed at him. 3 days later, he disappeared during closing shift. They found his cleaning cart near the Tunnel of Love, still spraying water into darkness. But Micah himself was never found. After that, employees stopped touching anything the operator told them not to touch. Employees especially hated working the Wacky Worm after closing. The ride smelled wrong. Wet dirt, rotten grass, standing water. Sometimes the carts felt warm, almost body temperature, and every few weeks, the operator left buckets beneath the ride overnight. Buckets filled with worms. Thousands of them, moving together so tightly they almost looked like liquid. One night, I watched him dump the entire bucket beneath the tracks while whispering softly into the ride supports. The next morning, the bucket was spotless, not empty, clean, and the ride always ran smoother afterward. Sometimes after rain, the rails became slick with clear slime, not grease, something wetter, stringier. Employees occasionally found pale worms squirming inside the ride joints beneath the giant smiling face. The operator once caught me staring at them. He smiled faintly and said, She's young. Young ones get hungry more often. One night near closing, I found Hound Dog sitting alone behind the carousel, still wearing the oversized costume head, not moving. At first, I thought the performer had fallen asleep. Then I realized the mascot was shaking, quietly, like he was crying. When he noticed me standing there, he slowly looked up, and even through that giant, smiling dog face, I could feel how terrified he was. The next morning, I asked the operator what was wrong with the mascot. He stopped walking, didn't look at me, just said quietly, "That ain't a suit anymore." Then he kept walking. I never asked again. The worst day in Libertyland history happened during Education Day in spring of 2005. Every school district around Memphis attended that year. Thousands of children, teachers, parents, field trip buses lined outside the gates before sunrise. For Memphis kids, Education Day felt magical. For employees, it felt wrong. The park always acted strange during large crowds. The rides became louder, hotter, more aggressive. Like something underneath the park struggled to process that many emotions at once. And people were cruel to the rides that day. Kids kicked safety gates. Teenagers carved names into coaster supports. Parents screamed at operators over wait times. I watched a group of boys spit onto carousel horses while laughing. One man slammed his fist repeatedly into a ride control panel because his daughter was too short to ride Revolution. The operator saw all of it. He stood near the midway motionless for almost an hour watching people damage the rides. And I swear to God, he looked heartbroken, like somebody watching people torture an injured animal. The first death happened just after noon. A teacher from South Memphis climbed beneath Revolution, trying to retrieve backpacks dropped under the tracks. Witnesses said the ride activated by itself while she was still underneath. The train completed one full loop before emergency brakes triggered. By the time employees reached her, there wasn't enough left to identify immediately. The operator stared at the blood dripping from the tracks with tears in his eyes, then quietly whispered, "They're upsetting her." At exactly 1:17 p.m., the entire park lost power. Every ride shut down instantly. The midway went black. Thousands of people trapped in sudden silence beneath gathering storm clouds, except the carousel. The carousel kept spinning, slowly. Music warped through dead speakers while the horses turned through darkness with no electricity feeding them. That's when panic started, because there were children riding it. Children nobody recognized, pale faces, blank expressions. Hands gripping the poles while the ride turned endlessly through darkness. Some parents swore there were more children on the carousel than before the blackout. Others claimed the children weren't blink. Then Libertyland spoke. Every speaker in the park activated simultaneously. Not music, breathing, deep, ancient, massive breathing that vibrated through the concrete beneath our feet. The sound came from everywhere at once. Inside the walls, inside the rides, under the ground. Then the intercom crackled, and a voice spoke across the entire park. Soft, wounded. "Why are they hurting me?" People started screaming immediately afterward. The massacre didn't happen all at once. That's what makes it worse. It unfolded slowly. Ride restraints locking shut around children. Tunnel rides stopping underground while trapped guests beat against walls in complete darkness. Parents climbing fences trying to reach kids before rides restarted themselves. One coaster launched half-loaded while operators begged people to stay back. A little boy near the front lost both legs after his restraint snapped open during a curve. The train kept moving afterward, still full of screaming children. The Ferris wheel stopped at the top, while cabins rocked violently despite no wind. Witnesses claimed something was moving between the carts, not climbing, crawling. Teachers ran through blackout conditions trying to count children who kept disappearing from groups. One woman from Bartlett Elementary reportedly found 6 students standing silently inside a maintenance tunnel beneath the carousel. All 6 children faced the wall, motionless. When she touched one of them, the child whispered, "She wants us to stay." That teacher was later found crushed beneath part of the carousel platform after the ride collapsed inward. But witnesses kept reporting something strange during the blackout. The mascot was helping children. Parents later claimed they saw Hound Dog pulling kids away from malfunctioning rides. Teachers reported the mascot guiding children through smoke-filled midway tunnels. One employee swore he watched the mascot pry open a jammed restraint to free trapped children before disappearing back into the dark. While the operator protected the rides, the mascot protected the guests, especially the children. I found the operator near the maintenance shed during the blackout. He was holding an old fire axe. At first I thought he intended to destroy the rides, stop the park somehow. But when he looked at me, he just seemed exhausted, heartbroken. "Calvin," he said softly, "you should go home." I remember screaming at him, asking what the hell was happening. Then he looked toward the midway and whispered, "They hurt her too badly." That's when I understood. He wasn't talking about people. He meant Libertyland. Near the end of the blackout, a young boy became trapped on the Zippin' Pippin tracks after climbing over a safety rail searching for his mother. Witnesses screamed from below while the coaster slowly restarted itself overhead. The child froze halfway across the tracks. Then Hound Dog appeared. The mascot sprinted onto the wooden structure awkwardly, slipping between support beams while the coaster climbed behind him. People later said the mascot kept looking back toward the train like he knew exactly how much time remained. Right before impact, Hound Dog grabbed the child and threw him clear of the tracks. The coaster hit the mascot full force. Wood exploded outward, and metal screamed. And for 1 second, everybody in the park heard something screaming inside the costume. Not human, not animal, something ancient, something afraid. When emergency crews finally reached the wreckage, there was no body inside the suit, only torn fur, wet black grease, mud, and dozens of pale worms squirming through shattered wood beneath the tracks. The first person the operator killed was a teenager smashing midway lights with a metal pipe during the panic. The operator walked toward him calmly beneath flickering emergency lights while distorted carnival music echoed through darkness. No yelling, no rage, just disappointment. Then he swung the axe. After that, everything became chaos. Parents screaming for missing children. Employees trying desperately to unlock restraints while rides restarted without power. Smoke pouring from attractions. Children disappearing into maintenance tunnels beneath the midway. And the operator moving slowly through all of it, killing anybody actively damaging the rides. A father trying to force open coaster restraints with a crowbar. Teenagers breaking ride panels, an employee attempting to shut down generators beneath the park, and every time blood hit the ground. The rides calmed down, lights stabilized, ride movement slowed, alarms quieted, like Libertyland was feeding. Officially, 23 people died during the Libertyland incident. That number is a lie. Attendance records were altered afterward. Thousands entered the park that day, and some never came back out. No bodies, no remains, nothing. Just empty seats on buses leaving Memphis that evening. The city blamed electrical failure and mass panic. They sealed records, confiscated tapes, filled maintenance tunnels with concrete. And officially, the operator never existed. No payroll, no identification, nothing. Like the park created him itself. But here's the part nobody talks about. Libertyland stayed open after the massacre. Not publicly, not normally. But employees were still brought in for months afterward, because city officials became terrified of what might happen if the park was abandoned suddenly. So every night after the massacre, we still fed the rides, and the park became quieter afterward. Not calmer, fed. Then October 29th, 2005 arrived. The city officially announced Libertyland's closure. News stations filmed families leaving the gates for the final time. People cried, took photographs, bought souvenirs. But the employees already knew the truth. By then, the park was already gone. Not physically, emotionally. Whatever lived underneath Libertyland after the massacre was awake now, and it no longer wanted to pretend to be normal. A few months later, demolition crews arrived before sunrise. Bulldozers surrounded the property. Police blocked roads for miles. But when workers entered the park, Libertyland was gone. Not destroyed, gone. No rides, no tracks, no buildings. Nothing except massive impressions in the earth where attractions once stood. Like something enormous had uprooted itself during the night. Only one structure remained, the operator's booth. Inside they found employee badges, ride logs, children's lost belongings, and one handwritten note. She was never meant to stay still. I spent years trying to convince myself none of it happened. That trauma twisted my memory. Then 3 weeks ago, I received a letter, no return address. Inside was a maintenance job offer for a new amusement park opening next spring. Different name, different state, but I recognized the smell immediately. Wet wood, grease, burnt wiring, sugar, Libertyland. At the bottom of the letter was a signature, the operator, and beneath it, one final handwritten sentence. She remembers you. Sometimes I still think about Hound Dog, about the way he stared at employees, the way he followed children, the way he cried behind the carousel, out of everything living inside Libertyland. He might have been the only thing trying to save us. If you ever hear about an amusement park opening overnight somewhere, don't go. And if somebody called the operator offers you a job, burn the letter. Because Libertyland didn't die on October 29th, 2005. That was just the last day she pretended to be normal. Hope you guys enjoyed another dark story from Dead Air. But before you disappear into the dark, we have a question for you. What's the creepiest thing you've ever experienced in a theater? Maybe it was hearing footsteps in an empty auditorium, a voice when nobody else was there, a shadow crossing the stage. Or maybe you looked up and realized someone was watching you from the seats. Tell us your story down in the comments, because there's something unsettling about old theaters. Thousands of people pass through them, thousands of performances, thousands of memories, and sometimes it makes you wonder what gets left behind when the curtain finally falls. Who knows? Your experience might inspire a future tape here on VHS After Midnight. And be sure to join us next time for another story from Raven Crow. Until next time, when the show is over, make sure the audience leaves with you